229 hostages are being held by the Hamas terrorist organization. 30 of them are children. It's been over 3 weeks since they were brutally ripped from their homes and taken to Gaza. They have had no contact with their families or with the outside world. Take a look at their faces. Imagine the horrors they have gone through and are continuing to go through. Imagine small children crying out for their mothers or fathers. The world must unite in demanding the unconditional release of every single hostage. Bring them home, now. And the Israel Defense Forces has increased the number of troops on the ground as part of its expanded operation in the Gaza Strip. Day 23 in the war with Hamas included news of the first injuries inside Gaza, with 2 IDF soldiers wounded overnight. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
IDF forces are operating deeper in the Gaza enclave than they have since the start of the war. Due to the fog of war, the army is not giving details on Israeli advances, but they are significant. In overnight fighting, the army says it suffered its first casualties on the ground in Gaza, with 2 soldiers wounded by mortar fire. The deepest IDF incursions on the 23rd day of the war came amid Air Force strikes on some 150 Hamas tunnels and bunkers.
עברנו שלב במלחמה. הלילה האדמה בעזה רעדה. תקפנו מעל הקרקע ומתחת לקרקע. תקפנו פעילי טרור בכל הדרגים, בכל המקומות. ההנחיות לכוחות ברורות. הפעולה תימשך עד לפקודה חדשה.
At a press conference last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke about the war's goals.
אתמול בערב נכנסו כוחות קרקעיים נוספים שלנו בשערי עזה, בפתחו של מעוז הרשע. זהו השלב השני של המלחמה, שמטרותיה ברורות. השמדת היכולות הצבאיות והשלטוניות של החמאס, והחזרת החטופים הביתה.
As Israel presses its ground offensive in northern Gaza, it's also allowing humanitarian aid to reach Gazan civilians fleeing to the south. The army sent this reminder.
Attention, citizens of Gaza, listen carefully. This is an urgent military advisory from the Israel Defense Forces. For your immediate safety, we urge all residents of northern Gaza and Gaza City to temporarily relocate south.
The IDF ground operation into Gaza has yet to bring a halt to rocket fire into Israel. There was intense fire in the south of the country, including the border area and the city of Ashkelon. Over the weekend, Hamas targeted Tel Aviv and Beersheba. There were damages, but no injuries caused. Meanwhile, at the UN in New York, a non-binding UN resolution calling for an immediate Gaza ceasefire passed with an overwhelming majority. The world body adopted the Jordanian resolution that makes no mention of Hamas or its attack on Israel. The vote was 120-14, with 45 nations choosing to abstain. The U.S. voted no. Most democratic Western nations voted against or abstained. Despite the recent visit of solidarity by President Macron, France voted in favor of a ceasefire. Hamas issued praise for the UN call for a ceasefire, while Israel called the motion despicable.
And Israel says it has intelligence that the Hamas terror organization is using hospitals in Gaza as bases of operation for its terror activity, using sick and injured Palestinians as human shields. This would make the hospital a legitimate military target under international law. More in the following report. Israel announced over the weekend that it had secured intelligence that the Hamas terrorist organization was using the main hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa Hospital, as a shield for its terror tunnels and base of operations. The IDF spokesman also added that Israel had intelligence that Hamas had stockpiled fuel in the hospitals, and that Hamas is using it for its terror infrastructures rather than offering it as aid to the people of Gaza. Furthermore, Hagari said that Shifa Hospital is not the only one being used by Hamas.
Hamas uses Shifa Hospital as a shield for Hamas terror infrastructure. Hamas wages war from hospitals. By operating from these hospitals, Hamas not only endangers the lives of Israelis, civilians, but also exploit innocent Gazan civilians as human shield. Shifa is not the only hospital, it is one of many. Hamas' use of hospitals is a systematic.
To further support its intelligence claims, the IDF also released footage of the interrogations of terrorists apprehended inside Israel after the October 7th massacre, which confirmed that Hamas is using hospitals as a base of operations.
كل شغلة الإسعاف إذا هي عيادات مستشفى
يستغلوها لهم
بيستغلوها عشان إيش؟
عشان انتوا بتكسبوهمش
وهيك يعني
بيقدروا ينقلوا كل شيء
شو زي إيش مثلا؟
عبوات سلاح عشان قلت لك عشان الشفاء أمينة بتنقصفش يعني آمن لهم حسب علمنا يعني حسب علم.
Under international law, when schools, houses of worship, or medical facilities are used for terror purposes, they become legitimate military targets. Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative, available on the web, Android, and Apple. And 3 weeks into the war with Gaza, and Israel has significantly expanded its military operations in the Strip. Joining us now with more is Yoni Ben Menachem, a veteran Israeli journalist and expert on the Middle East. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So Israel has finally expanded its ground operations into Gaza. It's vague and still unclear if this is the ground invasion the world was waiting for. And now that we have entered with tanks on the ground, what will be the objectives for this stage of the war?
It's not the big grand operation that Israel planned to occupy the Gaza Strip in order to release the hostages and topple the Hamas regime. This is a small incursion in the north of Gaza Strip. And it seems that Israel has accepted the advice of President Biden and the American Minister of Defense, Lloyd Austin, to halt now the big operation and to start with raids on different parts of the Gaza Strip and trying to put pressure on Hamas. The main aim of this activity is to show Hamas that Israel is serious and that it should really start to negotiate with Israel about the release of the hostages. Otherwise, Israel will occupy the whole of the Gaza Strip.
Now, why start in the north of Gaza? And how will we know when the important objectives of this phase are actually achieved on the battlefield?
We know when it's achieved, when we release the hostages, or even if there will be some sort of a deal to release some of the hostages, we'll know that the operation is working. Or on the ground, if we will succeed in killing a lot of terrorists and also the leadership, the military leadership of the Hamas military wing, then we'll know that we have achieved something. Today, for instance, as a result of this incursion, the Israeli army killed 20 terrorists so far, only today. So there are fighting on the ground. There is fighting on the ground. There are terrorists who are coming out from tunnels trying to attack the IDF forces in the north of Gaza Strip. And also the IDF is initiating its own activities to discover the entries to the tunnels and to defuse large explosives near the openings of the tunnels. So there is military activity, very active military activity and fighting, but it's not on a larger scale.
So I want to ask you specifically about the tunnels. The IDF has also revealed that Hamas is using the hospitals as a command center. How will this complicate the objectives of the IDF?
Well, this is only proves what the IDF has been saying for maybe the last 10 years, that they're using, Hamas is using the civilian as human shields. This story of Shifa Hospital, the main big hospital in Gaza City, which under it is the commanders of the military wing of Hamas are hiding. This is the headquarters of Hamas. This is an old story. Everybody knows that, but Israel made a mistake that in all the previous military operations, they never demanded the evacuation of the hospital and did not demolish this headquarters. Now it's the moment of truth, and I think it's only a matter of time until the Palestinians will have to evacuate the hospital, and Israel will go in and demolish these headquarters.
And what about the northern front? You know, Hezbollah has said that it would enter the war if Israel, in fact, invades Gaza. For now, they're not upping their response.
Well, they're waiting, like all of the other Iranian affiliates in the Middle East, they're waiting to see if Israel is serious and will it really invade Gaza with the big forces and occupy the Gaza Strip. So I think the real test is the day of the invasion, and once the big invasion will start, then we'll know what are the true intentions of Hezbollah. So far, it is very vague, and nobody, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, nobody know how to read Hassan Nasrallah intentions. So, but we're taking it into account that they might join also the battle. Everything now is taking into consideration, and we have to maintain all our possibilities and to prepare the Israeli army on both fronts to confront also the threats of Hezbollah.
All right, Yoni Ben Menachem, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.